Xiaomi is back with their Pad 7 Pro. This is a spiced up Pro version of their Pad 7 with some more bells and whistles. Hello, my name is Brad. I review tech for creative professionals, and this is a Pro tablet. So it does have some Pro features like a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor. You can get up to 512 gigs of storage in here. You have an 8,850 milliamp battery, nice cameras, some tight audio, but it's at a mid-ish tier price point. This tablet, like many of Xiaomi's products, doesn't have a planned US release, but fear not. If you are one of the 23% of the people watching this from my native land, you can probably still find this item if you're looking online at like AliExpress or something like that. Right now it's listed for about $430-ish, so I'm gonna assume that's about the base price that we're looking at, and I'm making my value assessments based on that price. So let's set this thing up and see what we've got. This thing does not come with a focus pen. That's what they're calling their stylus here. It's an additional purchase, but I've been using the heck out of that thing this week on this tablet. It is a USI stylus, which has some pros and some cons. The cons being that the lines have some wave to them, so you have to use some stroke straighteners in the apps that you're using if you want to get those nice, smooth, professional lines that I'm always looking for. But the pro is that it's a really nice feeling pencil when you're holding it in your hand, and it generally works pretty well. Today, I'm not doing quite as much finished artwork on this thing, at least that's what I've been using it for over the last week. I've been mostly sketching. And that's because February for me is hand month. It's not an official thing, I just kind of made it up. At least February was hand month. By the time you see this in a few days, it will be March. So I am drawing hands on this tablet today. Lots and lots of hands. It is the end of the month. I'm a little tired of drawing hands all the time, but I've been getting better at it, even though a few of the hands you will see here are kind of stinkers. It's a learning process. My plan is to add some more content to my Learn to Draw in 60 Days course sometime this spring. If you already have the course, that's just going to be a free update for you. If you don't, I'll leave a link down below in the description. You can check out the details on my website. So let's take a look at this tablet and see what comes in the box. There is the tablet itself. You also have a power brick as well as a USB Type-C cable. Yes, I got the international charger. Your charger will be based on the region you purchased it in. Now the tablet has a nice aluminum body, has some squared off edges, very iPad-ish. They aren't sharp, it feels good in the hand, solid tablet. Now mine here has a matte screen on it. I was genuinely surprised when I pulled this out of the box. This is only the second Android tablet I have ever seen with a coating on it, the other being XP Pen's Magic Drawing Pad. I should put an asterisk on that statement. I have seen iPads with coatings like this. The iPad Pro that came out last summer had like their nano textured glass on it. I tried that out. This is kind of similar to that. Now most tablets almost always have a glossy screen because the colors just pop more on glossy screens. Well, the XP Pen tablet I mentioned before, it is textured specifically to provide more grip for the pen because it is specifically a drawing Android tablet. So this, like the iPad surface that I mentioned, is much smoother. So it's more of like an anti-glare surface. You're not going to notice a whole bunch of grip when you're drawing on it using the pen. Maybe it's a little bit better, but I wouldn't buy it specifically for that reason. Now I asked for some confirmation because I think the matte texture that they gave me might be an option and not the default. I'm going to stick that on the screen right here. So if that's the case, you'll know, but you might be able to get it without this if you want to. Overall, I think the screen looks good, even with the matte coating on it. I don't think it takes much away from the colors or the pop or that sort of thing. This is an 11.2 inch LCD display, kind of about the same size as like an iPad Air. It feels and looks a lot like an iPad Air. And I consider that to be like your standard tablet size. Its resolution though is not standard. It's 3,200 pixels by 2,136 pixels. That is a lot of pixels, and honestly, more than you really need on an 11.2 inch display. The iPad Air, as a comparison that I mentioned a minute ago, that's sitting at 2,360 pixels by 1,640 pixels to give you a sense of comparison. And that's fine. It's still a very pixel dense display. Even though this is not an OLED display, I think it looks pretty good. This is a high quality LCD. Part of that quality might be coming from the 144 hertz refresh rate, which makes all of the animations seem smoother. Part of it is probably coming from that really high resolution. The brightness range here is also really good. If you want it to get super dim, you can like scroll that down almost off really. But if you pump it all the way up, you get up to 800 nits of peak brightness on this as well. I really wanted to take this outside and see what it's like to use in the sun, but right now, this past week, I haven't seen the sun. There's no sun here. It is winter and it is February, almost March, and very cold. I'm still intrigued by this anti-glare display. Looking at this next to the Samsung Galaxy Tab FE, you can see the differences between this, that XP Pen, and the Samsung. Well, okay, I can see the difference. I hope it shows up on camera. Side note, I review a lot of Android tablets here and I rank them over on my website. So if you're doing research, it might be easier going over there to do that than digging through my YouTube archives, but whatever's easiest for you. Let's talk accessories because Xiaomi sent a whole bunch of them to test out. Now, I mentioned the Focus Pen already. We're gonna talk about that more in a minute. It is battery powered. It connects to the top of the tablet, but they also sent me 2 keyboard covers. The Pro keyboard cover folds out, just a keyboard cover. Then there's the Pro Focus keyboard cover that also has a trackpad to go along with it. That one also sets up your tablet and kind of hovers over the keyboard a little bit, kind of like Apple's Magic Keyboard cover. Now, the one with the trackpad is significantly heavier feeling. I'd say it's about twice the weight. In fact, that cover alone weighs as much as the tablet. So when you put the two together, it's got some heft to it. You're going to feel that even after you put it in a bag. It's probably about the same weight as a really small laptop because it kind of is a really small laptop. I thought the trackpad implementation on the Focus wasn't too bad. It takes a second for it to realize when you kind of move your finger around that you're going into mouse mode. But once you do, it doesn't have like the cursor that I've seen on Android tablets. It kind of copies the little Apple circle, which I think works better on a tablet. And then as you scroll over different areas, it highlights them so you can see it. It's just well implemented. There's also touch gestures that you could do on that trackpad. So if you don't want to reach up to the screen to kind of move around, you could do 2 fingers to kind of swipe between screens. You could do like 4 fingers to swipe up to close any app, that sort of thing. There's also this cover accessory, which is what I use the most because most of what I do on these drawing tablets is drawing. But here I ended up taking it off because I wasn't really a fan of it. It's not designed for art. It's not designed to be set down at a certain angle for you to draw up. If all you're looking for is something to protect the screen while you put it in your bag and set it up at an angle to watch content, it's fine. The angle it does set up on isn't quite steep enough for me. Like when I have something I don't want it at 90 degrees necessarily, but I don't want it pitched back quite as far as it is. And that's really the only angle you could set it up at. I did try flipping it around to have that down at a drawing angle, and that's too steep when it's down to kind of be drawn on. Also, there's a lot of bounce to it. So like once you set it down upside down, it's just not designed for that. So when your hand rests on the tablet, it's like, it just bounces a lot. Doesn't feel good. I wouldn't use it that way. I didn't use it that way. There's also a flap that covers the pen, which is kind of nice, except when you like fold it over and try to draw with it, that flap kind of gets in the way. There's a magnet along the back, so you can flop it over, but again, that impedes it from being able to lay down flat on the ground. Now, the good news here is I was poking around on Amazon going like, are there third-party cases for this? And the older version, the Pad 6, it looks like you can get a case for that does what I'm looking to do. So you might want to invest in that instead of something like this. I don't know if that'll fit the 7, but I'm sure someone will make something better at some point down the road. So if I'm ranking this tablet, where do things fall into place? I would give the screen a B because it's good enough. It's not OLED, but it's solid. But what I'd give the other internals is an A, mainly based on the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor. I think that is the real appeal here at this price point. If what you're looking for is a well-priced Android tablet that's going to last you a long time, processor speed is the main thing that you should be looking at, and that's what this has. This is one of the best ARM processors out there for Android. Any art apps that you throw at this, it is going to handle just fine. And the good news is it's going to be able to handle those art programs for years and years to come. Everybody asks me in these videos, what are you drawing with? What are you drawing with? And half the time I forget to tell you. So today, the main app I'm using a couple different ones, but the main one is one called High Paint. It's a nice little drawing app. It's like a Procreate clone available for Android, and it gives you a rundown of how many layers you get when you choose your canvas size, right? So the larger the canvas, the less layers. It's kind of based on like the processor, mostly the RAM, honestly, and what that can handle. And even at this really large canvas size, I was getting 80 layers, which is a lot. I don't need 80 layers. That's that's really good for me, but that'll give you a sense of like what you're dealing with in terms of how large of a canvas you can work with a lot of layers. There are 3 storage configurations available here. There's 128 gigabytes, there's 256 gigabytes, and 512. I personally don't need a lot of tablet storage because artwork is usually, I don't know, 25 megabytes, 50 megabytes a piece per canvas. I'm only making a couple canvases per week. It just takes me a long time to like fill up a tablet's hard drive that way. If you're recording a lot of videos, it's going to take up a lot of storage. If you're doing video editing and pulling videos onto this thing, it's going to take up a lot of storage. I guess if you were like loading up a lot of games, wanted to use this for gaming because it's probably really good at that based on the processor, then you might want to spring for something a little bigger. It's also worth pointing out many of the tablets I've reviewed on this channel have a micro SD port on it. So if you run out of storage, you can always expand it yourself, just popping in a card. This does not have that. So that is something to take into account, that if you think you're going to need more storage now, you probably want to spring for it now. I also got to use Calipeg's beta on here. It is a really good animation app that is coming to Android. It's still in beta, but that's always kind of fun to use, and I can see those file sizes getting up there if you're going to do more animation-y type things with this. Also, what other drawing apps am I using on here? I'm using Clip Studio Paint a little bit. That's one of my favorites. Love drawing in that. Krita is really good on Android. Here, since we're dealing with a smaller screen, you're going to have a lot more like interface stuff kind of on the screen and less drawing real estate than maybe you get like on the Samsung Galaxy Ultra or Plus or something like that. Or even that XP Pen I mentioned a bit ago, which is a 12-inch, slightly larger tablet. You also have Infinite Painter, thumbs up, iBest Paint X, thumbs up. You have a lot of options nowadays when it comes to drawing on Android. But what about the stylus? Well, the stylus is the stylus, USI stylus, and it's just okay. And I'm not the biggest fan of these kinds of styluses, but they get the job done. If you're doing handwriting, that sort of thing, it's going to be great for that. I find overall, the pressure's pretty good, like the accuracy's pretty good, but really, you know, where you get into it is just that line wave. What you're gonna have to do in many of these apps is turn on line smoothing in order to get like that finished crisp line. And what that does is it slows down the stroke, it takes away some of your accuracy, those sorts of things. And since I can get like a Samsung S Pen that just doesn't have that and doesn't have that compromise, I would probably recommend that over a stylus like this. Also, the S Pen is almost always packed in with devices that can use it, where here it's another $60, $70 if you want to get that. That's an additional purchase. So overall, do I recommend it? Yeah, I mean, I think it's a solid tablet. I do have some reservations here, only because I think there's stuff out there that fits me better personally, but I understand there's some appeal here. A lot of times with Xiaomi products, the price in your area or where you live might be significantly cheaper than Samsung. Also, that Snapdragon 8 processor, that's really nice. That's really, really nice. If that's what you're looking at, I get that. And the screen, not OLED, but solid. So overall, it's not a bad pickup. But since I focus on the drawing aspect first and foremost, I personally would want a better pen. What do you think? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days.